Welcome back to the first Whiskey Wednesday of 2021. I'm Alec, he's Alan, and today we are digging into the comments a little bit to discuss pairings. We've done a lot of pairings on Whiskey Wednesday, and people had questions about it in terms of, how do you do a pairing, what makes a good pairing, stuff like that. So I hate to admit it, but I invited the expert today
Yeah.
to sit down with me and discuss pairings.
So I'm not an expert because I'm sure there's some kind of a chemical analysis that you can do and some type of a chemical reaction on why they work well together, but I do have a lot of experience.
So you're not a scientist?
I'm not a scientist.
Okay.
I'm a cigarologist, but
That's cool.
based on experience, there's some things that we can talk about to help you if you want to do some cigar and whiskey pairings. I've paired with Irish whiskey, with rye, with American whiskey, with bourbon, American single malts, Scotch,
So
cognac.
basically any type of whiskey. Not maybe not some wines.
Maybe not all of it, yeah, but enough to know when you're looking at cognac where they're distilling grapes and you want something that's going to match up to the sweetness type thing. Those type of things. But is the question, why does it go well together, or how do you?
There were several questions. How do you know if something's a good pairing? How do you find a good pairing? Why does the whiskey affect the cigar and the cigar affect the whiskey? Stuff like that.
Okay.
These are the questions that we were getting.
So that's a good part. Why do they affect one another, and what is it that you're looking for? So I would say one of the things that's important is that when they talk about having a cigar and keeping, you're warming it up, you're bringing in a warm smoke, onto the palate, and you want to be able to keep the warmth, which keeps the palate open, right? So when you have a spirit that is at room temperature, that is warm and it warms the mouth, I think that it lends itself to tasting more, right? That's why people eat food, more hot than they do cold, right? It opens up the palate a little bit more. You get more out of it. So I think that there's something there.
So if you were having whiskey on the rocks, then would you go with a little bit of a lighter cigar, or does it depend on the whiskey?
Well, I think what you find also from the beginning is when someone is drinking whiskey on the rocks, is they like the taste of whiskey, right? They just want it cooled to their liking, which I think is great. But they are really just getting the taste of the whiskey. And I think when you are doing that and you want to enjoy your whiskey, the last thing you want is for the cigar to overpower the flavor that you're looking for, right? So yeah, I think that if you want balance, if you're looking for balance and you want something that's going to pair well with a chilled whiskey, you want something that's probably going to be lighter, so you're still getting that whiskey, even though it's tightened down a little bit, which is okay, it's how you like it. I think that would work. That would work well. Yeah.
Great answer.
It's just in my mind when I think about brown spirits and I think about whiskey and what it does and what I like out of it. Now I've learned for myself, I like higher proof
Same.
whiskeys. I like something that's going to let me know it's there.
Well, we're drinking a Jack Daniel's barrel proof rye right now, so
Yeah, and it's very good. But so with that, I think that it's really, like I said, important that if you're going to drink a brown spirit and you want it, you're going to have it at room temperature, you're going to get the heat off of it. You want something that's going to, when it opens your palate, you want something with the cigar that's also going to keep your palate open. You're bringing this warm smoke in, and you want them to play well off each other. You want them to be balanced off each other. I think that is what gives you the longest lasting experience, in my opinion. Again, there's probably some chemical reaction that takes place, why they work well together. But if you think about it, they both have nuances.
Of course.
Right? They're both kind of nuanced products that you're bringing in, you're ingesting. And they both have levels of sweetness and different flavor notes on both the tobacco and the whiskey. So I think there's a lot in common.
I agree. So another question was, what do you look for in a pairing? So, which is a very tough question, because there are things that are more difficult to pair. There are different ways to pair, complementary or kind of contrasting a little bit. Peated whiskey is something very hard to pair, at least in our opinion. I think you agree with me on that. Different types of tobacco that are in cigars can make it more difficult to pair as well. But moving all that other stuff aside, when you're going for a pairing every single day, what are you looking for? What do you lean toward? Is there a certain, let's say, proof that you're looking for in whiskey that you think pairs well with cigars, or is there a certain strength level or flavor profile in cigars that you think goes well with the whiskey, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that I think when you have, again, I mentioned I like higher proof whiskeys, but I think that when I'm looking at the cigar and I'm looking to do a pairing, I don't want something so high proof that's going to be very difficult for any cigar to keep up with. So yeah, so what I look for, first of all, let me tell you this. I think if you want to find a pairing that you enjoy, I think it's important to pick one item, meaning either pick your whiskey and pair to it, or pick your cigar and pair to it. I think that makes it easier to say, hey, this is the cigar I'm going to focus on, let's say this month. Let me find a whiskey that pairs well with it. I think that's easier than just keep throwing things together and see what works, which is also fun, by the way.
So you're saying, like, if you pick your whiskey first and you're like, I want a cigar that pairs with this, you kind of figure out what the profile is a little bit, what maybe a couple of nuances or flavors that you're pulling from it, and then try to think back to your cigar experiences and what cigar may go well with that whiskey.
Correct.
In terms of potentially matching profiles and flavors.
Right. So if you have a whiskey that's very viscous, right, and it has some very thick smoke.
That was another thing I was going to bring up.
Right. Very
the
thick,
viscosity. Yeah.
Yeah, the viscosity and a strong mouthfeel. You may want that in your cigar, that it has a thicker, more chewy smoke to it.
Yeah.
And has a greater mouthfeel. So therefore, you're already matching certain components.
Yeah.
And then
agreed.
you want to look at maybe the nose and the aroma. And you want to look at the finishes. I mean, if you can just pair a few of those, it's going to be probably a very good experience.
So if you had like an 80 to 90 proof whiskey, you might want to go something a little bit lighter in color and in terms of your cigar, and maybe more mild to medium, and then maybe around 100 proof, 90 to 110. You might go for more of a medium bodied cigar, and then working your way up to over 110 up to 130, you might go for something with a lot of ligeros in the cigar, maybe some maduros, something that will hold up to some of that higher proof, or vice versa.
Yeah, I think that's a great start. The only thing I think you have to be careful of is when you get to the higher proof and the heavier cigars, that you don't completely inundate your palate, which you end up going to taste everything and end up tasting nothing. And I think you have to be a little bit careful of that.
Yeah, because your palate's extremely overwhelmed at that point, and you just want to be careful that you're just not hitting your palate so hard that you're not, like you said, just completely inundating it and tasting almost nothing.
Yeah. So I think the greatest part about this is that for people who enjoy what we do with whiskey and cigars, the journey is a lot more enjoyable than the destination, right? So it's great to know something that you can go to as a standard, but the journey of getting there, of trying all your whiskeys and trying all your different cigars,
that's part of the fun for me.
That's amazing for me. I mean, it's just something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Whether it's at the end of a day or near the end of an evening, to be able to sit down and go through the process, I think, it's a great way to finish.
Honestly, it's like, a day on the golf course. It's never a bad day because you're playing golf. It's never a bad day because you are smoking and drinking.
Right.
Even if the pairing is not perfect at that, at that time, you'll work on it, but it's still a good time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not uncommon for me to pick up a cigar, try a whiskey, realize maybe it doesn't pair well, put that whiskey away, bring out something else that I want to try, and kind of go through that process individually. And I've had success in doing that, and I've had a lot of failures doing that too.
I get it.
But still okay.
That's kind of why I like starting with the cigar and pairing the whiskey to it, just because you can pour a little bit to figure out what it is that you want to ride throughout the rest of that cigar, versus pouring a whiskey and then having to put out a cigar and go get another one. It's kind of you don't want to put out a cigar at that point.
Yeah. So one of the things that does happen, and this is when generally it's a home run, right, is when you pick up a whiskey and it tells you what cigar that goes well with it. It will something will come to mind that you've smoked, like, I just know this is going to go well with Prensado. I already feel it. I already know it.
Yeah.
But
that takes time. It takes time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I mean, I think it's a home run when it just speaks to you. Like, I'm smoking this cigar, I already know what whiskey I want to go for. That's all that palate recall coming back. I think that's a cool moment, and then it gets together, you kind of get a smile on your face. And
I get that completely.
Yeah.
So before we close this out, we're drinking this Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof Rye. It's 130.6 proof. Yeah, not a low proof whiskey, and it's a rye. what would you pair with this off the top of your head? From the Alec and Bradley portfolio, right now you're smoking a blend that we're working on for a future project.
Yeah, this is just something that we're working on now. So it's 130.6 proof. I don't think it drinks like 130.6 proof.
I was going to say
whiskey.
I was going to say around 115 proof is what I was getting from it.
That's right where I am. It does have a little bit of like a little bit of a heat bomb at the end. I don't know what it is. It's just kind of sneaks up.
It finishes strong.
It finishes strong.
It finishes strong.
And so if I was going to pair something, does it have to be Alec Bradley?
No, you can go with anything.
Yeah. So I think that I think Pete Johnson from Tatuaje, he has a cigar. You know the name of it, the little one that we like, the little Corona.
Oh, you're killing me.
I don't know if it's even in the market anymore, but it had, and we can come back and give the name of that. But great cigar, very concentrated flavor, and it really had a great. It almost had that rye.
You're talking about the black label Coronas? Is that it?
No, I don't even.
Does
know
it
if
have
it's
a
in the
red
market
band?
anymore. Yeah,
The La Riqueza?
La Riqueza.
Yeah.
That's it. So the La Riqueza and the little Petit Corona, I think that's a great cigar to have with a rye because it's got that pop to it. It's got and it matches up really well.
I love that cigar, so I'm glad
Okay.
you said that. I was just thinking from our line, I was thinking the Gatekeeper Corona would go very well with this.
Yeah, if you can find them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now we don't have them, but yeah, I agree. I think you need something more concentrated, probably a little smaller ring gauge in the cigar, and something that has a lot of Central American tobacco to it.
Yeah.
Which would generally be heavier. I think it would go very nicely with this.
I agree. And the one other thing, I was thinking one other brand, some of the LaFleur products I think would go very well with this.
On the back end.
Yeah.
Though I don't think it would match well on the front end.
I can get that.
Okay. Just
Well,
my opinion again.
Thanks for coming back and watching Whiskey Wednesday. We'll see you next time.
I hope you guys enjoy it and come back because I kind of now like being asked to do this. It's out of my normal routine, but
He's not
I
being
get to have
invited back.
a drink and a cigar with my son, so that's kind of cool.
Cheers.
Cheers.